Hello, everyone. Welcome to this week's edition of Voices of Africa. How did we get here? In 1961, a plebiscite was organized. In 1972, a referendum was called. The name Federal Republic of Cameroon became the United Republic of Cameroon, and today, the Republic of Cameroon. Now, one would think all these changes would make the country an oasis of peace fundamental to economic development. It once was. Unfortunately, since 2017, war in Anglophone Cameroon has ravaged villages which were becoming sprawling suburbs. So many people have been killed. Thousands and thousands of civilians displaced, and near uncountable numbers plunged into untold misery. Again, how did we get here? On the show this week, the truth as it is, not as anyone would like it to be. Ladies and gentlemen, to discuss this topic, I invited Professor Victor Julius Ngo, Professor of History and Political Researcher, Mr. Christopher Achobang, Human Rights and Social Justice Campaigner leaning Ambazonian, and live from London, lawyer Alex Ndive Lisinge. My name is Divine Chamukong, and I'm anchoring this broadcast from Washington, D.C. metropolitan area. We are airing the show concurrently on www.chatnightafrica.net, also on our YouTube channel, Chat Night Africa, and on our Facebook page called Chat Night Africa. You can also follow this vivacious broadcast on LinkedIn. Ladies and gentlemen, it's time we get started. Once again, let me introduce to you Professor Victor Julius Ngo.
Yeah, thank you very much, and I look forward to having a very, very healthy discussion. Thanks once more.
Professor Victor Ngo, you have publicly, consistently said Anglophones who took up arms were, and I quote you, misled, fed with wrong information on the history of Cameroon, especially that of former British Cameroon, end of quote. There was the plebiscite in 1961, the referendum in 1972, United Republic of Cameroon in 1984. So, what is the information you deem to be misleading?
First of all, in 1961, February 1961, the plebiscite that was held with the two options: independence by joining the Federation of Nigeria, or independence by joining the Republic of Cameroon. Those two options were accepted by the principal political parties at the time: the KNDP, led by John Foncha, and the KNC-KPP alliance, which later became the CPNC, led by Dr. EML Ndeli. At that plebiscite, Southern Cameroonians of voting age and who voted, they did so overwhelmingly in favor of achieving independence by joining the Republic of Cameroon. And I repeat, overwhelmingly. And this trend had been going on since 1955, when it became impossible for the political leaders in British Southern Cameroon to agree on a common political future of the territory. It should be pointed out that eventually, and three main options came up: independence by joining Nigeria, independence by joining the Republic of Cameroon, or independence as a separate political entity. This third option, independence as a separate political entity, I would like to emphasize, was not as popular as some Anglophones or English-speaking Cameroonians put it. And I will use this platform to draw the attention of historians that the 4 United Nations visiting missions to British Southern Cameroon in 1949, in 1952, in 1955, and in 1958, there wasn't a sustained popular call for independence as a separate state. The Fonds and Chiefs in 1956 had said they wanted neither water nor fire, which meant they wanted neither reunification with French Cameroon or association with Nigeria. But between 1956 and 1959, the Fonds and Chiefs vacillated so much so that at the end, they all came out in favor of independence by joining the Republic of Cameroon. And it is also important to emphasize that the KNDP, which was founded in 1955 by John Foncha and Augustine Gomjoa, did not come out forcefully for independence as a separate state. They always put it, we want secession and we'll negotiate our future. But it is important to bear in mind that in October 1956, KNDP sent a confidential letter to the National Union led by Paul Sokol Priso, in which they asked for financial assistance and made it very clear that they were in favor of joining their brothers in Eastern Cameroon. And of course, between 1955 and 1960, especially when the UPC took up terrorist activities in French Cameroon, the option of independence by joining French Cameroon was not popular because of the terrorist activities. In spite of the fact that the KNDP won the general elections of 1959, January 1959, and believed that it was a clear answer to their political platform. But their political platform was not well explained. And this should make it very clear. The National Executive Council of the KNDP met from the 2nd to the 3rd of February 1959, and they passed a resolution that British Southern Cameroons should join French Cameroon so that together they achieve independence on the 1st of January 1960. It is on record. British Southern Cameroons should join French Cameroon, and together they will achieve independence in 1960. Independence not as a separate state, not as a separate independent state. This was the 2nd to the 3rd of February 1959. And of course, when John Foncha made his annual address to the first annual meeting of the National Union of Cameroon Students in Kumba in July 1959, he made it very clear that there were only 2 options: association with Nigeria, which the KNC-KPP wanted. Those are not my words. And wanting freedom and reunification. That was July 1959.
Okay. I have a question for you, sir.
Yes, please.
You have, without any apologies, accused the intellectual elite, the elite, of misleading the young people who picked up guns in 2017 with falsehoods. Why is yours not also misinformation, sir?
When we are talking of the discipline of history, the discipline of history deals with authentic facts. The discipline of history deals with what took place, what was said, and not what you wanted to have been said, but what actually said and what actually took place. I will just give you one or two examples. It has been common knowledge for some time, false, of course, that Southern Cameroon achieved independence before reunification on the 1st of October 1961. And this is what led some Anglophones to say we want the restoration of our independence. It should be made crystal clear. The option was what? Do you want to achieve independence by joining the Independent Republic of Cameroon? Which means that if Southern Cameroonians had said no, they would not have achieved independence when they did, and they would not have achieved independence the way they did. So for anybody to mislead Cameroonians, be they Francophones or Anglophones, that Southern Cameroon was an independent state before 1961, it is very, very false.
Okay.
And, yes, please.
Okay, yeah, just conclude that we'll bring the next speaker who is going to challenge your view, sir.
Yeah, and then it has been said that the option of independence as a separate state was ruled out by Britain and the United Nations. And it is important to understand that although the Cameroon United Party of PM Kale, founded in February 1959, came out in favor of independence as a separate state, we all know that he did not get the support. He did not get the support. So much so that even when September, October 1959, Foncha, that is the KNDP and KNC KPP alliance, went to the UN in New York and presented their files. At one point, Foncha said Southern Cameroons should be allowed to maintain its trusteeship. Britain should continue the trusteeship administration. And I would like us, one of the participants who is still alive, Godly Dinka, was so furious that he almost held Foncha in New York in the corridor for a fight. And it was Abel Mukong who held him. And I would like to tell the viewers that lawyer barrister Godly Dinka is still alive. He's a living witness on that particular point. And of course, finally on that issue, when John Gu Foncha was moving over to Yaoundé permanently as vice president in June 1961, June 1965, in his farewell address, he said the third option of independence as a separate state was refused because it was not on the KNDP platform. That was what he said. His farewell address is on record. It is there. Thank you.
That is the political researcher and historian, Professor Victor Julius Gore, giving us the historicity of the event. You are watching Voices of Africa. Ladies and gentlemen, I introduced one of the panelists as leaning Ambazonia. That's Mr. Christopher Achobang. Before I bring up the lawyer to look at the legal validity of the referendum and even the plebiscite some people have called it a scam, let's now hear from the person who is going to go after Professor Victor Julius Ngo. Here is Mr. Achobang Christopher.
Hello, good morning, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I take a personal minute of silence, which will just be on my mind for the tens of thousands of former British Southern Cameroonians or Ambazonians who have been killed within the last 5 years because of their genuine and legitimate quest for self-determination or independence. I would like to greet my former lecturer at the University of Boya and colleague, Professor Julius Victor Ngo, wishing him a happy new year and a change of mind for the way he's been revising history. I would like to remind the learned Professor Victor Julius Ngo that in 1954, the Southern Cameroon representatives in the Eastern House of Assembly in Enugu, Nigeria, marched out of the Eastern House of Enugu, Nigeria, and came back to Southern Cameroons in Boya, where they started a parliament. They came there to be self-governing, and before 1959, they had already experimented democratic rule. They were ruling and managing their own affairs to the best of their abilities. And Foncha, who took over and campaigned towards having independence, was the second prime minister of former British Southern Cameroons. So the former British Southern Cameroon was already self-ruling before 1961 plebiscite.
I'm not interrupting you. I'd like to tell Dr. Julius Ngo, please keep listening we are following you. Listen to what Mr. Choban has to say, because you may have to challenge his points of view, sir. Everybody's listening to you. Yes, Mr. Choban Christopher.
So at the eve of the plebiscite by 1959, there were three options. Independence by joining the Federation of Nigeria, or independence by joining the Republic of Cameroon. And the third option was total independence. It was the British representative at the UN General Assembly, the trusteeship, the international trusteeship system, who raised the objection of the third option of total independence for British Southern Cameroons. Andrew Cohen is the representative of the trusteeship country who raised an objection saying British Southern Cameroons did not have the necessary assets to be self-governing. They did not have the resources to manage a government. And so he ruled out the third option. But all along, Foncha wanted the third option. But in the case where the third option of total independence did not prosper, he asked Britain to continue its trusteeship for a period to when they deemed that British Southern Cameroon was ripe enough for independence. Foncha never objected independence. Even Emmanuel Lifafa Endele, Dr. Emmanuel Lifafa Endele, he too was for independence. But when that third option of independence was scrapped, they were now forced to make a choice between the two evils. Endele preferred to join the Nigerians that they were already used to. They had links with, they had economic links with, they had political links with, they even had a common judiciary, the common law system, which was practiced in Eastern Nigeria and that was transposed into British Southern Cameroons. When they were leaving, they brought all those systems. So Ndele's warning when he was campaigning was that you are going to join a people who were ruthless and did not have any culture of respecting laws. That the Cameroon Republic that you were campaigning to join, they were barbarians, they were savages. They did not believe in the rule of law. So it would be better to join the Federation of Nigeria. Foncha, on his part, campaigned to join the Cameroon Republic because, according to him, there were lines of affinity between the French Republic, the Bamilekes of the West region, the Sawa, the Doualas, and the Bassa of the Cameroon Republic with the Bakweri, the Sawa people, and the Northwesterners. So he was exploiting those traditional links to believe that it was better to join the Cameroon Republic.
May I ask you a question at this point, sir?
No, not yet. One of the plebiscite observers, John Percival, who was 24 years old, who came to the Northwest around Wum Menchum to observe elections, said from Boom village in his document, the 1961 plebiscite, betrayal, is it a betrayal? He said he had the most...
Dr. Ngo, I'll be bringing you on the platform in a moment. Yes, go ahead, sir.
Yes. The most fantastic question from a local person in Boom village who said, why are the plebiscite officers only campaigning for the former British Southern Cameroonians to join the French robbers? He described French Cameroon, that is Cameroon Republic, as robbers. Why were they forced to join robbers or join the cannibals of Nigeria? Why did they think that they should allow them to be on their own? Beyond the historical links, as an environmental and social justice campaigner, beyond the historical links, beyond history, we are here stating that for the last 5 years, we have been visited by the worst savagery that British Southern Cameroonians ever knew.
We'll come to that, sir. We'll come to that. Let me ask you, you listen to Professor Julius Victor Ngo. He laid out what he believes are unassailable facts. Where do you disagree with him, sir?
I am saying that the independence or the decolonization of British Southern Cameroonians, of British Southern Cameroons, was a botched oppression. It was a failed oppression. The United Nations failed. And every other historical fact that it brings there about British Southern Cameroonians voting a majority to join the Cameroon Republic was simply because that option was forced on them. They considered it a lesser evil. We are saying we have the right to self-determination, and history can always be revised. We are looking at a country like Senegambia, which also chose to have independence or to join Senegal, but had a change of mind along the way and moved away from that union.
Mr. Achobang, if I understand you, if I understand you, you really do not dispute the fact that at the time of independence, by joining, it was a popular thing. You're just saying that it was botched, it was unfair, and so nothing says we should not revise it or revisit it. If I get your point, I want to make sure.
Exactly. Exactly. We have a right to self-determination at any period of our existence.
Okay. All right. At this point, ladies and gentlemen, I will bring up the lawyer to look at the legal validity of independence by joining. That's the plebiscite, the referendum, and so on and so forth. You have just been watching and listening to Mr. Christopher Achobang. You are watching Voices of Africa. My name is Divine Chamakong, and I'm anchoring this broadcast from Washington, D.C. metropolitan area. How did we get here? You've heard the points that Professor Julius Victor Ngor has laid out. You've heard the intervention by Mr. Achobang Christopher leaning Ambazonia. At this point, ladies and gentlemen, we will invite live from London, lawyer Lissinger, and he is coming on the platform.
Hi, Mr. Divine.
Lawyer Lissinger, thank you, sir, for accepting to come and take some somewhat sorted questions on Voices of Africa. I'm inviting you as a lawyer to put all the statements within legal perspectives. The plebiscite of 1961 was organized. Fair or not, it was done, supervised by the United Nations. In 1972, there was the referendum called by Ahidjo. The name moved from Federal Republic of Cameroon to United Republic of Cameroon, and today we have the Republic of Cameroon. Some have called all of this nonsense. You are a lawyer. Do you call it nonsense? Let's start with the plebiscite, sir. Does it have any force of law?
Thank you, Mr. Divine, for bringing me on your platform. I want to thank Professor Victor Ngor for being on the platform too. I want to thank Mr. Christopher Achobang. And I believe when people come and share their opinion on the same platform, we can make a way forward rather than people talking by themselves. So I'm very happy to be on this program. I would like to commence before I go to your plebiscite. I would like to say something. One, our country was created by foreigners, the Cameroon. That's the fact. It was a sugar plantation. It was not even a country. And what I want to look, our country was born out of colonization. And I want to say, international law, is colonization, is it legal? It is not legal. When you look at what they call the Crystal Resolution 1514, colonization is illegal. So what they did in that plantation called Rio dos Camaros, the country today, it is illegal, even if we are existing. That's what I want to say. That's the first point. We have to accept that. Nobody can dispute it. It is a fact. When you go to a plebiscite, people talk about the plebiscite and referendum. There's a difference between a plebiscite and a referendum. A plebiscite refers to negative, unfair, undemocratic political system that was used by people like Napoleon, Mussolini, dictators to endorse their charisma. That is a plebiscite. A referendum is free, fair, and democratic. So there are differences. So we had a plebiscite. And again, I should make it clear to Professor Victor Ngor. We talk about some people who misled the public. I'm sorry, Professor, I know you very much. I've met you, we have pictures together. I'll tell you, you are misleading the public, Professor. And this is why I say you are misleading the public. I'll make it clear that two countries came together. You keep on talking about independence. I repeat, two countries came together. And I'll tell you, my Professor Bipumu Jean-Marie defined a country as a political authority, a territory, and a population. Southern Cameroon was a territory, a political authority, and a population. So it was a country. There's a difference between independence and a country. Scotland is a country, it is not independent. Wales is a country, they are not independent. So the problem, Anglophone problem, is about, and Mr. Biya stated quite clearly in France, they try to integrate us. They try to assimilate us. What does this mean? It means a name that was inherited from France in 1945. They have translated it what in NASLA. They are forcing it on the Anglophone. It means that École Normale Supérieure that they inherited from France in 1793, they are forcing it on the Anglophone. That's the problem. It means military tribunal that they inherited from France which was created in France, rather, I should put it that way, in 1794, they are forcing it. Unelected governor forcing it on the Anglophones. And we keep on saying that there were, you said there was two options. No, there was no option. Let me tell you, Andrew Corren, which Mr. Christopher talked about, he was the one who decided. The late Queen of England said, we don't want the balkanization of Africa. So they just decided on something. Then we, back home, our politician at the time, they thought, oh, we were the one. No, it was decided in England and the United Nations. Andrew Cohen said, no, we don't want this. We should give them two options. You join Nigeria or this side or the other side. So my point is, two countries came together. The former British Cameroon joined La République du Cameroon. Our point is, if there was no bad faith, I want to ask this question. It's not really a question. It's something that I want to put on your platform. The United Kingdom became a country on the 1st of May, 1709. It's still called the United Kingdom. And you have what? 4 countries inside. None of them, they have never changed their name. The United States on the 4th of July, 1776, became United States. They have never changed their name.
Here's my question. So I got that. Here's my question. So you're disputing the fact that, I'm going to take your questions to Professor Julius Ngor. The question I'm asking you, lawyer, is, does a plebiscite, we may not like it. Again, the issue here is not whether we like it or not. We just want to see what historically, the historicity of it, we may not like it. But the question I'm putting to you directly, sir, is the plebiscite a scam? Was it a scam? Question. Should we respect it? Should the generations today respect the plebiscite and the referendum? You as a lawyer, what's your reaction? What's your answer?
What I made it clear that colonization in accordance with international law is unlawful. It's not legal. So the people, the UN, who colonized us, what they did was illegal. That's the first point. And again, I'm saying, okay, let's assume that plebiscite, it was legal. Let's assume that it was okay. Okay, what stops the people? It's democracy from asking the same people, do you want to remain or do you want to leave? As what they did to Scotland. And the people said they want to remain with UK. So if it's a plebiscite, it's democracy. That's what we are claiming. It was democracy. We are happy with it. Let's assume that it was fair. So what stops us to have another referendum or plebiscite, whatever you want to call it?
Dr. Ngor, let me ask another question before I bring out Dr. Ngor. Dr. Ngor said that at the time of the plebiscite, Anglophone elite actually went out and campaigned for independence by joining. Do you dispute the fact, sir?
To be honest, what I will tell you something, which I disputed why, I will make my point. La République du Cameroon, which Aïdjo, before we joined independence, La République du Cameroon, the prime minister then was who? President Amadou Aïdjo. They signed something what they call the French Cooperation Agreement, that France is going to control our military, our educational orientation, and they have to control our resources and all whatnot. They are still doing it today. So, okay, how do you go and join British Cameroon when you have not annulled the cooperation agreement which is still existing today? Some people say it doesn't exist. The cooperation agreement clear, which was signed between La République du Cameroon and the French Cameroon, it's clear, Article 6, that they have to control the political educational orientation. That's why we have things like ENAM. That's why we have things like École Normale. All of them, they come from France. Prefer comes from France. They print our money, it comes from France. They're still doing the same thing until our money, they don't even have English on our money. So at the end of the day, how do you go and do something that you still have a treaty with somebody, then you're joining another part of it? So it was a fait accompli. What Aïdjo did, the referendum, it was a continuation when Mr. Biya came. It was continuing what started in 1959 before we came together.
This is what I have a document here before me, sir. This is part of an address that Mr. Solomon Tandeng Muna made at the United Nations, I think in 1961. Let me read just that paragraph. Finally, we successfully produced a draft federal constitution, which, having been adopted by the two legislatures of East and West Cameroon, now, and take note of it, now binds the two states together as a federation, which came into being as the Federal Republic of Cameroon on the 1st of October 1961. We are proud, Pamuna goes on, we are proud to report that this constitution drawn up by us is typical and adaptable to our peculiar and existing problems. I should now like to read out the parts of the several, and it goes on and on, but let me just add it there. Lawyer, we may not like what Palmer and the rest did, but they did it. Does it matter to you, sir, what the founding fathers of that political entity, geographical entity, did in 1961? Does it matter?
Mr. Divine Chamuko, I was lucky. The first time I went to Ngembo Bengwe there, I went there, I met Pamuna. I also went to Foncha Street, I met Pa Foncha. Sometimes the position when you're talking, you are in government is different. And when you're not in government. And I met them when they were no longer in government. And we must make it clear on this, your program, that Pamuna and Pa Foncha went to the United Nations because they were not happy with what happened. There's always the official position. I have the Constitution of Cameroon with me here, and I'll read to you what Article 64 says on this Constitution, then I will refer it to the Federal Constitution. It says what? Article 64 says, no procedure for the amendment of the Constitution affecting the Republic form, unity, territorial integrity of the state, and democratic principle within the Republic of Cameroon. That's what it says. Article 47 said a similar thing, that they should not change the form of state. And as a constitutional lawyer, what I will tell you, if you go and do something, you change the constitution, which says you shouldn't change something, it means what? It is unconstitutional. If you look at law, it means the fact that they changed Article 47 means it's unconstitutional, which means the current government is not legitimate. It's illegal. That is what the law states. Unfortunately, we don't have checks and balances. We have people who, the country is being ruled by what? Presidential degree. It's a fact. And I will make this clear to Professor Victor Ngo. You talk history is a factual event. I live in the United Kingdom at the moment. There are certain things in Cameroon and in the United Kingdom that the government doesn't tell you. And at the end of the day, if you don't have all the facts, so how can history be a factual event? A factual event. What I'm saying is a fact. Why? Because I'm talking about law. You can never talk about that history is a factual event, because our government today, they hide things from us. So a history can always be what is referred to you or what you witness. So I don't look at history as a factual event, because government, they hide things from us that we don't know all over the world.
Thank you for those clarifications. Let me ask you questions. Now, I'm in the United States. At the Supreme Court, when decisions are being made, the justices, they said, well, they interpret the law from the perspective of what the founding fathers thought. That's why I ask you the question. Are the founding fathers, is the thinking of the founding fathers in 1961 of any relevance today? How can you just dismiss it? They came together with a vision for a political and geographical space.
Divine, I'm not a fan to compare a lizard with a crocodile. I know George Washington, what they did. I know Thomas Jefferson. I know all of them, what they did. They are the founding father. Mona, Foncha, Aijo, they are not the founding fathers. Some foreigners came and created a country. They were the people who led the country. They did not find that country. I can't say they are founding in the way. We cannot compare a crocodile and a lizard. They were not founding father. There were people who did politics. People created a country and put them there. That's a fact. Unlike you talk about George Washington, Adams, or Jefferson, all of them, they fought a war, took a country, decided on what to do. They wrote their constitution. They were founding fathers. In Africa, to me, to my own personal point of view, my opinion, we have puppets in Africa. We don't have founding fathers.
Now, before I bring you Mr. Achoban Christopher on the platform, the question that has continued to bug a lot of people is, if I come and buy a home from your father, listen to my analogy. I come and buy a home from your father. You are still young. Maybe the terms of sales were not favorable to him. And then you grow up now as a lawyer and say, well, sorry, that decision has got to be rescinded. It's not making sense to me, sir. You're a lawyer. I mean, these things were arranged and agreed upon. You can't just now come and say, well, we don't like it, and trash it. That's, if I understand you, that's your argument, sir.
That's not my argument, Divine. I've said something which you are ignoring it. I say, in accordance with international law, colonization is unlawful. So the fact that some foreigners from abroad, they came to a location in Africa, they say, oh, countries who cannot govern themselves. I want to ask Mr. Christopher, I want to ask Professor Vitongo, were we not able to govern ourselves? We had kingdoms, we have kings. Professor Alan Ingwakele told me about the Manjong, the Bafut Society. Article 76 of the United Nations, it's a 419. Countries who cannot govern themselves. So King Leopold of Belgium, he saw the people of Zaire. Oh, they cannot govern themselves, and he loved them and went there and killed 20 million Zaire people. No.
Not interrupting you. I want to open now the phone line, not interrupting you. Anybody, the phone line is, the phone number is on the screen, 240-603-7367, 240-603-7367. If you want to call, if you're in the United States or Canada, you can just dial the number. If you're overseas, do 001-240-603-7367. I will, at this point, bring up Mr. Achoban Christopher to take some questions. Ladies and gentlemen, you have on the screen now lawyer Alex Ndive, the singer, connecting live from England. I have some comments in. I'm reading what Thomas Ekali says. Muna and Foncha are not founding fathers. Really? Somebody is shocked to hear that Lawyer Lisinga is saying Muna and Foncha are not founding fathers of one of the founding fathers of Cameroon. And Thomas Ndosak says, that's right, Grand Tom, what I hold as right of facts in my cerebrum can't be changed at now, irrespective of what, I'm losing part of the sentence there. Anyway, you can dial the number 240-603-7367. Full Vincent says this debate is very educative. We are waiting for also Professor Victor Ngo, who fell off the line, to come back on. Once I see him in the green room, I will bring him up. Now, time for us to listen to Mr. Christopher Achoban, leaning Ambazonia.
I wish to thank
Mr. Christopher Achoban.
Barrister.
Yes, Mr. Christopher Achoban. There are times that facts in history might not be so palatable. I mean, we don't like them, but do we just ignore them because we don't like the facts?
What I wish to add to what Barrister Lisinga has said is that we did not, in fact, join the Cameroon Republic. Cameroon Republic invaded British Southern Cameroon and occupied immediately after the bogus plebiscite. They occupied British Southern Cameroon and took hold of all the institutions and started demolishing whatever they saw there. From their occupation, they assaulted our basic institutions, a produce marketing board. They dissolved our power cam. They dissolved Cameroon Bank. They dissolved WADA and so on. They were out to destroy whatever they met in the developed territory of British Southern Cameroons, today called Amazonia. So the plebiscite, which ushered in the Federal Republic of Cameroon, had to be developed. That's why the so-called founding fathers, Endele and Foncha, they were to meet Ahidjo and the Cameroon counterparts in Fumban to discuss how to best implement the federal system. They came back from Fumban, they came back empty-handed, and they faced an onslaught from Ahidjo and his gang, who were so ready to completely assimilate whatever was British, whatever the educational system, the legal system. They were out, in fact, to completely wipe out everything English from British Southern Cameroons. And Biya confessed in Lyon, France, in 2018 that in front of Mo Ibrahim, that all along they have tried frantically to completely assimilate British Southern Cameroons. As I speak to you, even as they had the national dialogue to try to address some of the issues, our students are still being taught in GTHS Bamenda in a language they hardly understand by Francophone teachers who are neither teaching in French nor English. They're teaching something between. In GHS Limbe, in GBHS Limbe, we have the same scenario where teachers who have French as their main language are struggling to unteach our children in that French.
Let me ask you a question, Mr. Achoban. Can I ask you a question at this point?
Yes.
Let me take again the example of the United States. In every State of the Union address by just about every president, they'll tell you that we are working towards a more perfect union. Why, in spite of all these problems you are enumerating, why couldn't people come together and say, okay, the imperfections are there. There's no such thing as a perfect country. Why don't we correct all of this? Why is war the alternative or the option?
Well, war was forced on Amazonians or former British Southern Cameroonians by the French Republic, by Paul Biya. When
okay,
the teachers,
let me
hold on, let me learn, let me explain. When the teachers and lawyers started their strike,
and I see Professor Ngobi coming on the platform momentarily. Yes, go ahead.
In 2016, they were out for the force of argument. They wanted a discussion on their conditions, the conditions of the teachers and the conditions of the lawyers, which expanded now into the conditions and the well-being of former British Southern Cameroonians. When they called for that discussion and they started grouping themselves into the consortium, into the teachers' associations, it was Yaoundé, Cameroon Republic, which banned all those avenues of discussions. They never stood for a war.
But the question,
they started killing people on the street. Hold on, they started killing people on the streets. And on 22nd September 2017, women, children, old people, they came out with olive branches, with peace plans, calling for self-determination for British Southern Cameroons. They did not for Amazonia. They were not carrying guns. The Cameroon Republic sent their soldiers who killed thousands of unarmed, peaceful protesters, which in fact protest is enshrined in the 1996 Constitution of the Republic of Cameroon, that the Cameroonians were free to protest.
But let me ask you a question real quick here, sir.
Yes.
I mean, if all these facts that you are saying about the illegality of this illegality, if it's true, I followed a lawyer, Bobga Harmony Button. I listened to his declarations when the lawyers were still protesting. If independence was the way to go legally, why didn't he just say, no, we're going for independence? This is not what was on the table at the time. So how do you therefore convince?
We have proven our good faith all along. We had hoped from 1961.
Yes, Dr. Ngo will come up in a moment. Yes, go ahead.
That we might be able to have a good a conducive working relationship with our former brothers of Cameroon Republic. But all along, their intention was to treat us like a colony. They came in to colonize us, they occupied us, they tried to assimilate us. They did not even think that we had the right to say what we wanted. I will call your attention to 1972 referendum, the so-called 1972 referendum. On 5th May 1972, all the 10 representatives of the former British Southern Cameroons, they walked out of the Federal Assembly in Yaoundé and converged at the residence of Professor Bernard Fonlong. They went there and said they did not like what Ahijo and his team were trying to do to change or revise the Federal Constitution of 1961, even though it had its flaws. And the military, Ahijo sent his military, the gendarmes and the paramilitary, to follow them to Professor Bernard Fonlong's residence. At Professor Bernard Fonlong's residence, the 10 West Cameroon parliamentarians in the Federal House asked him, what are we going to do? When Professor Bernard Fonlong looked at the huge number of the military that had already surrounded his building, he told them the forces were against us. So whatever happened at the referendum in 1972, which was just a yes or a no, a yes or a we vote, was not binding on the former British Southern Cameroonians who history claims joined willfully the Cameroon Republic to have independence. It was
okay. Your point has been taken, sir.
Yes.
Yeah, your point has been taken, and that's Mr. Christopher Achoban. You are watching Voices of Africa. At this point, I will bring up Professor Julius Victor Ngo, who is a political researcher and a historian. I'm reading it in the chat room. Some people are for what he says. Some people are saying that he's cooking up the facts. That's to be expected. This is a debate. Ladies and gentlemen, here is Professor Ngo to take some questions. Professor Ngo, lawyer Lisinga said, when you say that the former the British Cameroon wasn't the country, just because it wasn't an independent country doesn't roll out the fact that it was a country. How do you question that? What's your rebuttal?
I think with all due respect to the lawyer, he's unfortunately not being honest. And it is important for all of us to know, for him to know, that before 1884, there was nothing as Cameroon as we have it, or as we had it right up to 1916. The various states, kingdoms were independent, quote unquote. The Europeans, in this instance, the Germans, through various means, brought these various ethnic groups in together. And eventually we had in Cameroon. Even if, as all of us know, colonialism was bad, but it was because of a colonial power that we have what we call today in Cameroon. That one is a fact. Secondly, for him to argue that the plebiscite was wrong, and then he goes on to talk about 1972, and he cites Article 47, which of course says any revision of this constitution which affects the unity and territorial integrity of the federation is inadmissible. Of course, that's what it says. But I think as a constitutional lawyer, he will not dispute the fact that sovereignty lies with the people. And Article 2 of the Federal Constitution made it very clear that sovereignty was with the Cameroonian people. And the sovereignty could be exercised through their elected parliamentarians or by a referendum. And if we recognize and accept that sovereignty lies with the people. I find it hard that a constitutional lawyer will dispute the fact that the people did not have that right, that sovereignty to decide what they want. It is a different issue saying that what occurred in 1972 was politically wrong, but that doesn't mean that it was a violation of the Constitution. Article 2, as I said, provided and gave sovereignty to the people. The second point I would like to make, Minister Christopher has just told a long story, which is not true. That the 10 parliamentarians went to Professor Bernard Fofalong's house. Bear in mind that Article 8 and subsection Article 47, subsection 3 gave veto powers, I repeat, veto powers to the parliamentarians. And it was very clear that out of the 10, for instance, 10 parliamentarians from West and Cameroon, if 6 of them had voted no, the referendum would not have taken place. So to deceive Cameroonians that 10 parliamentarians walked out, why did they not use their veto powers in the assembly? So when we are talking, we should tell exactly what happened and not say. The 10 parliamentarians, as I said, just like the parliamentarians in East Cameroon, had veto powers. So if 40 parliamentarians from East Cameroon and 4 parliamentarians from West Cameroon voted yes, and 6 parliamentarians from West Cameroon voted no, the referendum would not have taken place. That is the point I want to make. And secondly, this whole thing of saying that Southern Cameroon was a state, there's a difference between a country and a state. Southern Cameroon was a trust territory after having been a mandated territory of the league. And there were certain conditions which had to be fulfilled by trust territories. And Article 76B, whether we like it or not, we cannot approve some of the articles of the UN, and then we turn around and condemn other articles. We should not jelly pick what we want. And my point, which I've said, and which I think Mr. Christopher should get it right. The taking of arms did not just start in 2017. History, an event doesn't just get up one day and explode. In 1995, the creation of a SCNC had its motto, independence of the Northwest and Southwest. And in 1997, the SCNC militants attacked several localities in the Northwest, and poor Cameroonians, poor Anglophones were killed because they wanted independence. You see, so we should not say the government in 2017 did whatever they said the government did. In December 1999, we are all alive, and we were alive at the time. December 1999, SANC militants attacked CRTV Boya radio station and declared independence of Northwest and Southwest. If you declare the independence of Northwest and Southwest, it meant what? Let us be honest. It meant a declaration of war. So when we are trying to hide those facts and say in 2017, September 22, 2017, Cameroonian troops moved in and slaughtered, we should go back where it all started.
Okay, your point has bin taken. Your point has been taken. After a little break, I will bring you up to debate Mr. Christopher Achobang, and the lawyer will also come up for a crossfire. You are watching Voices of Africa, and my name is Divine Chamakong. It's time for us to have a little break. It's getting really, really heated here. It's time for us to have a little break. This is Mr. Laza Shatzeka and Bliss Nkadji. You can hire them to play at any occasion you want. Listen to this rendition of Charles Tembe's song. Here we go.
Chimodipo inabola mudima wase Chema musango mo titi no Chemo yebiso siye na itaba mo na mo Ola epongo nyola bato bese Disima pula pondo ngona moto tade Ngia mito mangila e Disi bese ni soboe Enya kisabe Pondo e moto e Maombo manibole Mongo pene pasie Manyaka mabukiye Mabukingo manyamae Biya motiti pe ni kondi bonye Tata mweyande esumba sumba matanda Amota benamae Uma wasandeje Biya motiti pendi kondi boye Tata mweyande Esonga soba matanda Amota benamae Uma wasandeje Oni ugwa sonde no ipemea Ose telete Ge ya pewa kube Mundi mawase Mwande pungu pele Miso matondima Matsoi mandokie Oni ugwa sonde no ipemea Setelete ye Ge ya pewa kube Mundi mawase Mwande pungu pele Nisoma kundima Matoi mandokiye Uni ugwa sonde No ipemea Uni ugwa sonde No ipemea Yes, on the D, yes, on the D. Ibwa na meyande de talogo. O mati pande kanyamae kanyama mabiti. Yes on the knee, yes on the knee. Ibam na meyane de salongo. Omati bane kanyama kanyama mabiti. Kanyama mabiti. Omati bane kanyama kanyama mabiti. Kanyama mabiti. Omati bane kanyama kanyama mabiti. Oni ugwa sonde doi pemea. O setelete ngeya pe wakube. Undi mawase mwande pungupele. Miso matondima matoi madokie. Oni ugwa sonde doi pemea.
That is Charles Lembe's song there, replayed by the powerful gentleman here in Maryland, Mr. Laza Shatzeka and Bliss Nkatji. If you're organizing an occasion here, wherever in the United States, you can invite them to come play there. Ladies and gentlemen, we're watching Voices of Africa, this vivacious broadcast because of its content, the sensitive nature of its content. Now I have Professor Victor Julius Ngor. He's going to come up now and debate Mr. Achobang Christopher, and then I will later on bring on the lawyer. Ladies and gentlemen, let's once again welcome Professor Julius Victor Ngor on the platform.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, Professor Ngor, I'm going to bring up somebody who is diametrically opposed to your ideas, Mr. Christopher Achobang. And as I'm made to understand, you guys were at the University of Boya, Cameroon at some point. Was it student, professor, or teaching colleagues, Mr. Achobang?
No, we were not teaching colleagues. He was a student. Okay. Very good.
Mr. Achobang, we have heard of all the problems, marginalizations, and so on. But before I ask you the question, Professor Ngor, what makes it not right to organize another referendum? After all, a referendum is an expression of the will of the people. Why can't the government now call a referendum and say, do you want to stay or you want to go? Wouldn't that be the right thing to do? And isn't there historical precedence to that?
I think what we have to grapple with a very sensitive subject, which a good number of Cameroonians, and more especially the English-speaking Cameroonians, do not want to tackle it. A referendum. The situation has changed enormously. You must first of all ascertain whether the population of Southwest want a return to the Southern Cameroon structure with the population of the Northwest. It's a very sensitive issue. And when some of us say it, we are labeled blacklegs, we are labeled we are playing the game of divide and rule. But it is a very sensitive issue, because if we overlook it, 30, 50 years from now, we'll have a repeat of this problem. So first of all, understand that there's a difference between the population of Southwest or the population of Northwest and the population in Southwest and the population in Northwest. So before you are talking of a referendum, how do you frame the question, or you are talking of a plebiscite or whatever, how do you frame it? Do you take into account the fact that a growing and responsible proportion of the population of one region, for whatever reason, may not want to be in one state, as it was during the Southern Cameroon period, although it may not be recognized that at one particular time in the history, there was the Bamenda province administered separately, and there was the Cameroon province administered separately. So
I'm going now to ask.
So if you are talking of a plebiscite, we must first of all address this very painful problem and question, which some of us will not want to hear.
Mr. Choban Christopher, let me ask you a question, Mr. Choban Christopher. The people who have carried arms now fighting the central administration from the northwest and southwest regions, what are they fighting for? I mean, hold on, sir. I know it, but there are people who are watching this show who are not from Cameroon. So help us understand, so help them understand. Are they fighting for restoration of independence or fighting for independence? Or it's a self-defense thing?
Before I get to that, answering that, I would like to address a few issues raised by Professor Julius Victor Ngo. He clearly manifests himself as the devil of division who try to pick holes. In fact, there are a tiny minority who believe that when they cannot have all British Southern Cameroonians assimilated into the Republic of Cameroon, they should better break them up, divide them to be fighting one another. It is an imaginary problem.
Okay, we'll come to that. We'll hold it, sir.
Yeah.
I have a question for you.
Yes, you have a question for me, but let me lay down
on that. Okay.
This revisionist trend, because Professor Julius Ngo is a revisionist historian who decides to turn history upside down. I made a point that 10 Southern Cameroon MPs walked out on 5 May 1972 from the pre-talks leading to the referendum. He calls it a lie, but he goes ahead to spew 1,001 lies. And we are where we are because of the revisionist tendency of a pseudo-professor of history like Professor Ngo.
Let me just correct something.
History is that in 1999, when Justice Ebong and his friends, they stormed Radio Boya, they stormed it as Southern Cameroonians, not Northwest and Southwest.
Okay, I have a question for you, sir.
Refusing to call SCNC, which stands for Southern Cameroon National Conference, why does he refuse to call the people they are addressing as Southern Cameroonians? He prefers to call them Northwest and Southwest. You ask the question. You ask the question whether picking up arms. Can you take the question again?
Okay. My question is picking up arms to fight the Yaoundé administration. How should somebody who's not from Cameroon understand it? Is it a restoration for independence, a self-defense thing, or a fight for independence? They come to me as three different things.
On 22nd September 2017, millions of Southern Cameroonians took to the streets with palm fronds, olive branches, and peace plans, and their call was, Pobia, let my people go. They were marching for independence. They were not restoring, nor were they trying to create something that was new. They were out to have self-determination, to have complete independence from Yaoundé. That was a referendum, the most modern referendum where, as Professor Ngo says, sovereignty lies with the people. Millions of people came out on 22nd September 2017, clamoring for total independence from the savage and brutal barbaric Republic of Cameroon.
The reason why I ask the question, sir, the reason why I ask the question, Mr. Choban, is because those fighting are here restoration forces. So if you are restoring something, it has to be something that existed before. So that's why I needed your clarification on that. But before I go to Victor Ngo, Yeah, but before I go to
Yes,
You
Professor
have
Vitongo,
restoration forces. You have restoration forces, and you also have self-defense forces, and you have a panoply of forces, but all they are aiming at is self-determination of Ambazonia,
okay,
independence for Ambazonia.
your question, your statement noted. Professor Ngo said that at some point earlier on, before 2016, some people declared independence. If the state of Texas in the United States hoists a flag, brings up a national anthem, and declares themselves independent, that's a declaration of war, isn't it?
Before
And
that
if
declaration,
if a federal government, if the federal government responds with force, how can you then blame the federal government for waging war when a part of the United States decided to be independent? I just want your clarification on that, sir.
before that declaration of independence in 2016 or thereabouts, remember that one conditionality of the federal system was to meet 30 years after to review the situation. And 30 years after would have coincided with 1991. 1991, 30 years after, they had to go back to the United Nations and say whether it worked or it didn't work. They didn't even have anything to show because at the United Nations, there's no union treaty between the British Southern Cameroons and the Cameroon Republic.
Okay.
I see my, yes.
Please,
All right. So let him respond to that.
Talking
Please
about
keep your answer short.
No, you said hoisting of flags.
Yes.
If the state of Texas hoisted a flag declaring itself independent, would the United States of America declare war? Well, the carriage of arms in the U.S. it's a right. It's a civil right. The people of Southern Cameroon, if ever they picked up arms, was in self-defense. They were defending themselves after thousands and thousands of them had been killed. They only picked up arms in 2017 after October 1st, 2017. They were never carrying arms.
Okay, I got your point. Let's keep it short because we have your point taken. Professor Ngo, what Mr. Chobang says is incorrect?
Could you please repeat what he said, please? Because it was breaking.
Oh, I see. Okay. He's saying that the people, when they marched in 2016-17, it was a referendum, sort of a referendum. Now, if you believe that a referendum is the will of the people, how can you just ignore that? These were people marching peacefully. They say, let my people go. They want to go. Isn't that an expression of the people's will?
You see, this is what I said earlier. We should be very careful. We should not jelly pick what we want. They, at the same time, refused to recognize in 1972 that the referendum was done to express the will, the sovereignty of the people. Suddenly, he now says in 2016, 2017, a referendum was good. So what I am saying is this. What occurred in 2016, 2017 was not what the lawyers and the teachers wanted. They wanted that their corporate grievances should be addressed. And if we know fully well and we are honest, somewhere along the line, well before September 2017, Tasang said it was no longer a teacher's problem. It was an Anglophone problem. And that they will have to see who governs Northwest and Southwest. So it made it very clear well before September 22.
Your point taken. So let me ask Mr. Chobang a question.
Let me just address one point which he made.
Okay, wrap up then, because I have a question for him, sir.
He talked of a union treaty in 1961 that there was supposed to be one. This is the confusion that our late Mola Jolly brings in. Article 102 and 103 of the UN, talking of union treaty. Union treaty involves negotiated treaties between countries or states. And it is said that a copy of the treaty should be deposited with the Secretariat of the UN. And it only involves members of the UN. Southern Cameroon was not, I repeat, not a member of the UN. The Republic of Cameroon was a member of the UN. It joined the UN in September 1961. So Southern Cameroon, not being a member of the UN, had no standing to take the issue to the UN. And more importantly, the decision to reunite with the Republic of Cameroon was a political decision made through a plebiscite. And if we are accepting a referendum in 2016 to 2017, why don't we also accept that in February 1961, the vast majority of Southern Cameroonians opted to achieve independence by joining the...
Let me ask you a question on that before I go to Mr. Chobang, and please keep your answers short. Professor Ngo, that question of independence by joining, when I listen to some circles, political circles, the impression I have is that the United Nations came up from nowhere and imposed that. How did that clause, independence by joining, come about? Was it because the then British Southern Cameroons could not handle themselves, or why that statement? How did it come about, sir?
I think what we should understand is that for whatever reason, and it should be made very clear, and I would like to believe that there's no quarrel on this. The British policy, as far as British Cameroon was concerned, all along since 1922, was to ensure that British Cameroon achieved independence by association with Nigeria. That was their policy, and they did everything to ensure that. Okay, unfortunately, they came out with the idea and push it through that Southern Cameroons or British Cameroons was not financially viable to survive as a separate state. And unfortunately, the governments of Dr. EML in Delhi, 1958 to 1959, the government of John Gu Foncha, 1959 to 1961, went along with all the financial economic reports which were called upon by the British colonial authorities. And some of these financial reports failed to give an objective assessment, because you had countries like the Gambia, much smaller, less wealthy than British Cameroons, and they had independence as a separate state. So that is the point.
Okay. I get to a point, sir. And if I understand you, yes, that phony question of independence by joining came up, but Anglophone politicians at the time acquiesced to it and actually campaigned for that. Is that the point we're making? Yes or no?
Exactly what I'm saying. And I will even go further. When it became difficult that the two options were not acceptable, and it was decided that the Southern Cameroon politicians should go back to London and reopen, and ask that the whole issue should be reopened. They went, and of course they did not present their facts well. And of course, when the KNDP came back from New York, and Augustine Gondjoa told Foncha that the option of independence by joining a Republic of Cameroon was unacceptable, and they even threatened to remove Foncha as chairman of KNDP. And the Takumbens in Boya threatened to strip Emeneke to ensure that Foncha was not
Now, let me ask Mr. Chobang a question about the perceived division or not between the Southwest and Northwest region. Mr. Chapman, I'm sure in your youthful days, you dated a lady, and maybe apart, you separated ways for 30, 40 years. Would you still think that going back to marry this lady, you're the same person as you were 34 years back, 30, 40 years back, or the lady herself, the same person she was? Why do you think that, and that's my question, the thrust of my question, sir, why do you think that a federation of the Northwest and Southwest province regions is something necessarily acceptable to people of the Southwest region?
I don't know why you're highlighting this divide element, this divide and rule element.
Because the question came up. The question came up.
I'm reassuring you, there's no division between the people of the Northwest and Southwest.
Okay.
This is concocted by the political elite and by some pseudo intellectuals who think that they must dig holes to undermine the unity.
Unfortunately, it looks like you're freezing on the screen.
On 22nd September 2017, on 22nd September 2017, the millions of people who came out to call for complete independence of Amazonia.
It looks like your connectivity is having problems.
They came out like, they came out like Amazonians. They came out like Amazonians. The issue of Kamnogo, which Professor Ngo himself is guilty because he feels it's a 11th province and that the unity and independence of Amazonia might force him to go back to Obala region from Mangisa area where he comes from. I am saying nobody is chasing you to go back to East Cameroon. You are welcome to stay in as much as you respect the laws and rules of Amazonia.
Question to you, Mr. Choban.
I'm also telling the Bawok, 1 minute, I'm also telling the Bawok people who are in Bali that nobody is forcing them to go back to Bagante. They're welcome to stay in Amazonia in as much as they want to follow the rules and the principles of Amazonia.
Okay.
So there is no division between the people of the Northwest and Southwest. It doesn't exist. It's an imaginary demarcation created by politicians. It's a political being created from the 70s. Not even the 60s.
I got to a point. I got to a point. I got to a point. Ladies and gentlemen, at this point, we're going to bring up the learned lawyer connecting live from London to debate Professor Ngo. Here is lawyer Lisinge. Lawyer Lisinge, yes. You've heard this. Part of your service from the Southwest region. What are you hearing from Bakweri people, Bakosi people? Do you think that they have more cultural identities with the littoral, the Southwest, or with the Northwest? The question I have for you, sir, is what in common does a Bakweri man have with a Bali man, culturally speaking? Again, these are questions I gathered from a lot of readers.
The point I want to make, we are not geographical location. There are people in the Cameroons who have the same culture like Nigerians. There are people in Cameroon who have the same culture like Equatorial Guinea, Chad, or what. I heard Abubakar is from Chad, but he's playing for Cameroon. That's not what we are talking about. Yes, that's not what we are talking about here. I don't care about, at the end of the day, if you ask somebody from Northwest or Southwest, do you want our legal system, the English legal system, that will be a jury system? Everybody in Northwest and Southwest will say yes. If you ask them that, do you want our police officers who talks with you, or gendarmes who are, if you look at the definition of gendarmes, they say what? French-speaking armed people. They will say they prefer. If you ask anybody from Northwest and Southwest that, do you want elected governors, the English system, or do you want people from Enam who are administrators to do politics? Everybody from Northwest and Southwest.
Your point is taken. Yes. Your point is taken. The question I have for you before you debate Professor Ngo is, if this whole arrangement is so, if it's so illegal, then why not the courts? We're having guns. Why do lawyers not file a lawsuit? Maybe, I don't know where, International Court of Justice or International Crimes Tribunal or whatever. I'm not a lawyer, a jurist. You get my question. If it's illegal that the former French Cameroon and the former British Southern Cameroon are together as a country now, why don't you file a lawsuit?
Listen, Mr. Divine Chamuka, I'll tell you this. I met Kofi Annan's assistant sometime in London. I asked, is colonialism, apartheid, all those things, is it crime against humanity? They said yes. So if I'm taking my case to King Leopold of Belgium, somebody who came to extort or Britain, they came to destroy and steal from Africa, I'm taking it to their court. How does that help us? How does that help us? So to be honest, to me, we Africans should learn to deal with our problem, because the colonialists, these people abroad, apartheid promoters, people who promoted slavery, I will never take my things to them.
Okay, now I'm going to leave you debate, Professor Ngo. Professor Ngo, do you have a question for, and please keep your questions and answers short. Professor Ngo, lob your first missile towards lawyer Lisinge.
Yeah, I would like to, first of all, I would like to correct what Mr. Christopher said. The issue of the problem between the Northwest and Southwest did not just start in the 70s. In 1964, Vikuma was created, Victoria Kumba-Mafe was created, and the underlying goal was to contain the influence of a present-day Northwest. That was it. So that should be made very clear. So it is not something that Professor Ngo is trying to come up with. It was there, whether it was right or not, but it was created. My question to the lawyer is as simple as this. Does he believe that the 1972 referendum was constitutionally correct?
My answer is very simple. If you have an agreement in 1959 between France, cooperation agreement to control your country, so you cannot have independence until you make sure that you dissolve that cooperation agreement in 1959 between France and Cameroon. You cannot go, somebody says, I'm going to control your money, I'll print your money, I'll control your educational system. Then you're signing anything, it's irrelevant because you're already attached to something. So take it into consideration, the cooperation agreement of 1959, we can never move forward because France is pulling the string. I did not say this. It was Mr. Biya, a president of a country who said, Je suis meilleur élève to another president. It was Mr. Biya after the national dialogue. I was there, Mr. Victor Ngo. I was there. I have a picture with you. We were there together at the national dialogue. Mr. Biya says he's going to give come rendu to his master. Mr. Biya does not run Cameroon. He doesn't.
Professor Ngo, does he answer your question?
Of course not. Of course not.
Lawyer Lisinge, the question to you, sir, let me ask it again. The question to you, which Professor Ngo asked is, was the 1972 referendum constitutionally legal or constitutional, so to speak? It's a yes or no question. It's a yes or no answer.
No, come on, you don't answer yes or no. I've won. Mr. Victor Ngo, you debunked certain things that Mr. Christopher was saying. And you said a state and a nation is different. A state and a country is the same thing. It's a population, it's a political authority, and it's a territory. It's the same thing. You are trying to juxtapose things that are not existing. The truth is, you want me to say the referendum. If I want to say something as a lawyer, I have to substantiate. I said the fact that we had an agreement, La République du Cameroun, cooperation agreement, your hands are already tied. You cannot do anything. So then again, you want to debunk that the people are sovereign. Mr. Victor Ngo, you are a professor. Don't you want to be chancellor one day in the University of Boya? Do you expect one person to be president in the country for 40 years? So when you
what's your question? Let's stay on the topic, on the subject, Orlando lawyer. Do you have a question for Professor Ngo?
Professor Victor, you keep on saying the referendum, was it legal? My question to you, is there anything wrong to have another referendum? What I'm telling you, you say that, oh, we cannot go and join because this is Northwest and Southwest. It doesn't matter. Southwest is a geographical location. I'm a Bakore man, okay? Do you think that I agree with Bayangi or other people in Southwest? Why do you always bring Northwest and Southwest? It's a geographical location. Mr. Biya created 3 more regions when he was president. So Bakore land can be another region. Why do you always go around that issue of Southwest, Northwest?
Lawyer Lisinga, let me ask you a question, follow up. If there were to be an Ambazonia country today, it'll be a federal republic of Ambazonia. In other words, the Southwest region will have its own thing and the Northwest their own thing. So what's wrong with the 10-state federation? The Southwest their own thing, Littoral their own thing, Northwest their own thing. Why do you think that it has to be a federation of two regions?
Mr. Divine, let me make this clear to our audience. We are ethnicities. We are not geographical locations.
Okay.
I'm not Southwest. I'm not Northwest. I'm a Bakwarian. You are a Bariman. So I don't buy those things. Southwest, Northwest is for administrative purposes. We were born, we have our tribe. So we should stop this Southwest, Northwest thing. A man from Widikum, my friends from Widikum and Manu, they will tell me they have more in common with Northwest than Southwest. So we should stop this.
Professor Ngo, do you have a question for lawyer Lisinga?
So the Federal Republic of Ambazonia that some extremist Anglophones are proposing for, because they always say Northwest and Southwest, that the Federal Republic of Ambazonia will comprise 2 zones, the Northwest and the Southwest, or the Northern Zone and the Southern Zone. So at the end of the day, whether you accept it or not, the geographical aspect has to come in.
Okay, the last part of this question, the last part of this program, we will end in about 23 minutes. I thought it would be 90 minutes, but we'll end. And then I'll also be bringing up Mr. Christopher Achobang. Where do we go from here? Independence by war? And I'm asking you, the lawyer, independence by war, for those who believe you need independence, cutting off from the rest of the country. What's the path to it? Is it by war, international jurisdictions, or what? How do you get there?
The point is, the government of Cameroon should recognize its constitution, which says that people are entitled to their belief and their opinion. The government of the Cameroon is a signature of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, which says that you're entitled to your belief. I was at the National Dialogue and I made it clear, people are entitled to say they want to separate. It's a political opinion. Unfortunately, the government doesn't understand its law. That's why on February 1990, Barrister Yondo Black and co, they were arrested for trying to create a political party because the government doesn't know their own laws. So I'm telling the government that separation, unitary state, whatever you say, it's a political opinion. Allow people to campaign and do politics in peace. If they want to separate, let them go to the electorate. If referendum was good, how many years ago? Why is it not good now? Professor is saying that, oh, I don't know whether Northwest they want to join. I'm a Bakore man. I want a referendum. I want us to vote whether we should stay with La Republique or we should leave. It has got nothing to do with anything. I have blood relatives who are from the French part of Cameroon. We talk about those things. It's fun. We don't fight each other. I tell some of my French people who are blood relatives, in case we separate, what will you do is I will choose the
Somebody's asking for the phone number to dial 240-603-7367. Let me repeat it. 240-603-7367. Okay. Wrap up your point, sir. Let's move on to the next speaker.
Yeah, we should not make as if when we talk about opinion, separation, unity, it's a political opinion. We should allow democracy to prevail in our country. There is no one size fits it all. Nobody is God to be running one party. CNU rebranded CPDM for 60 years. Are they God? Even God, they will vote against God. Professor, please, let's be real. Let's smell the coffee. Let's wake up. It's time for change.
Thank you, sir. Lawyer Lisinga, live from London. At this point, I'm going to bring up Mr. Christopher Achobang to ask questions to the professor and the other way around. Mr. Christopher Achobang, what's the question you have for Professor Julius Victongo?
Before I asked Professor Victor Julius Ngo a question, I will wish to state that the Federal Republic of Ambazonia is not made up of 2 regions, Northwest and Southwest. It is made up of 13 states. The Federal Republic of Ambazonia is made up of 13 states. We have Fako State, we have Meme State, we have Manu State, we have Ndian State, we have Momo State, we have Mezam State, Boyo State, 13 states in the Federal Republic of Ambazonia.
Point taken, sir. And what's your question?
Yes. My question to Professor Victor Julius Ngo is this. If I want to be in a union with you, if you came, or if I came and killed everybody in your village, shooting children through their head, shooting your old mothers, burning their houses, destroying everything, would you still accept me to come and take one of your sisters to be with in a union?
Professor Ngo, your response. That sounds like a reasonable question.
Yeah, I think it is a straightforward question. If we recognize the fact that almost 99.9% of
okay, just hold the line. Somebody's on the line. Hello. Yes, you are live on Voices of Africa, and the entire planet Earth is listening to you. What's your question? Be brief. Okay, go ahead, sir. Okay, he's listening.
Says what?
Your response, Lawyer Lisinga.
Yeah,
I did not hear the question.
Oh, you didn't hear the question. Okay, hold on, sir. Hold on. Don't go away yet. You're going to repeat the question, the questions momentarily. Just stay on in a moment. I will put it in such a way that you can get the yes. Let me ask you just a moment. You're watching Voices of Africa, and yes, sir. What's your question? Again, ask the question.
Yes. Can you get me?
Yes. Yes, they can hear you. Yes, please. Ask the question.
Yes. Yes. I said my name is Tikumba Azonga, and I'm calling from Cameroon. And I agree with Lawyer Lisingi that the people have a right to self-determination. If that self-determination actually leads to a Republic of Ambazonia, and tomorrow the Northwest or the Southwest or the Northern Zone and the Southern Zone or one of them says, no, we've discovered that we can't be together, we want to split and form a separate country, would that be accepted at that point? Secondly, if Akwaya decided to break away from the Southern Zone and form a separate republic, using the argument that after all they're nearly as big as Rwanda or Burundi or Equatorial Guinea, would it also be accepted? Because it would be argued that they too have a right to self-determination. Or Donga Mantung in the Northwest wanted to break away from the Northern Zone. Would that be accepted? That's my question.
Did you get a question, Lawyer Lisinga? And the number is 240-603-7367. 240-603-7367. Lawyer Aneneba Akufo, you have my number. That's the same number. Yes, sir, your response, Lawyer Lisinga.
In a democracy, I'll answer your question by giving reference to the United Kingdom where I live. In a democracy, people always want wants. People always want certain things. They always say, oh, I want to separate. Scotland wanted to separate. Irish Republic, Northern Ireland, they want to separate. What do? They gave them devolution. They gave them a parliament. They have a first minister. They gave them what they want to do. They control their own things. Listen what I'm saying. They gave them that. But in Cameroon, the difficulty, I understand that you say if anybody wants to separate, when you allow people to run themselves, to run their own things, in the sense that I say, we live in Cameroon. I went to Ngwakele. I have to struggle to study in French. Everything.
And please keep your answer short, sir. Lawyer, keep it, because we have a lot of people on the line. Yeah, keep your answer short. Yes, go ahead.
My point is, we did not join La République du Cameroon as Northwest and Southwest or Bakwe or what. We joined as former British Cameroon, West Cameroon. So if anybody wants to say Bakwe, they want to separate, that is different. But we can.
Your point has been taken. Your point has been taken. The next caller on the line. Hello. 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 Okay, it looks like the caller has some other things doing. Hello. Okay, sorry. You are watching. Yes, Professor Ngo, maybe you have a comment to make that.
Yes, I just want to state that I think.
Yeah, caller, please stay on the line. Please hang on. Let Professor Ngo just make a brief comment. Yes, caller, stay on the line.
Yeah, I would like to remind Mr. and Christopher that the Ambazonians, the fighters, those whom they have arrested, those whom they have kidnapped for ransom, those whom they have killed, and at the same time, they say they are fighting for their protection, for their independence. They are all Anglophones. Almost 99% of those kidnapped, those killed, those their businesses destroyed are Anglophones. So the Ambazonian fighters are fighting who?
Okay, your point taken. I have the next call on the line. Hello. Hello.
Hello.
Yes, your question, sir.
Hi, good evening. I am Thomas Ikari. I'm calling from Maryland. I don't have a question. I just want to make a comment.
Okay, be as brief as possible. We have so many people on the line. Just go ahead, please.
All right. Yes, thank you. I've been watching the debate since it started. I think one of the things that is holding us back, Anglophones, is that we are not truthful. We are not truthful to ourselves. We go on propagating what I call Matango House facts or history. That's the first thing. The second thing is place. I think if you have debaters on your program, I think they come on the platform and they should take an oath to respect fellow debaters on the platform.
That's very important.
Mr. Achombang has been very disrespectful to Professor Ngo. He's been very disrespectful to Prof. Ngo. But, to Prof. Ngo's credit, he has brushed everything aside. Please, next time people coming on your program should be respectful of fellow members in the platform. Thank you.
Your point taken. This is Voices of Africa. Somebody's on the line. That's not a question. So somebody's on the line. Hello. Okay. Again, please, panelists, let's respect each other. It's very important. You can challenge the facts, challenge the points, but please, let's be respectful. The number is 240-603-7367. I've put all the panelists on the platform. That way, you can ask you can ask them your questions. But again, stay respectful. I have another caller. Hello. Yes, please do not use WhatsApp if you are in the United States. Call the direct number. Do not use WhatsApp. Call the direct number if you are in the United States. We have a flurry of calls coming in, and that's to be expected. Yes, sir. You're on the line.
Yes, I called a few minutes ago. I used WhatsApp because it looks like the regular lines were lagging. Can everybody in the studio hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Yes, my name is Akosin Raymond, and I have been following the debate for a while now. I want to say a shout out to barristers Lisinge and Fona Choban. The prof keeps talking about 1972 referendum. It was as fake as the union itself. La République talked about, everybody in both La République du Cameroon and Southern Cameroon had to vote in that referendum. That referendum was not supposed to concern people in La République du Cameroon. When Scotland or the Republic of Ireland was voting to become independent from Great Britain, only people in those countries voted. The entire country did not vote. Secondly, Professor Victor Ngo may have forgotten that Cameroon is a signatory, a member of the African Union. Article 4B of the African Union Constitutive Act obliges Cameroon to respect its boundaries as obtained at independence. That boundary does not surpass the Mungo to Bakassi. So, Prof, tell Paul Biya, your paymaster, to respect international law.
Okay, your point has been taken. Thank you, sir.
These are the 2 points that I wanted to pass across. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Again, if anybody calls and wants to be disrespectful, I have the means to cut off the call. You can ask your question, no problem. Challenge the ideas, but please, let's not get personal. I will cut the call right away. Professor Ngo, please respond.
Yes, please. Can you take the question again because it was breaking?
Oh, it was breaking. Sorry, he's gone. Maybe you'll come back to ask the question. Yes. Anybody wants to respond to whatever he said?
Yeah, what I would say is just that, to be honest, I know Professor Ngo a long time and I know where he lives. I like our debate to be civil and civilized and we respect people. I love debate. I have difference of opinion. Difference of opinion doesn't mean we are not friends. So I'll call on people to respect that. It's very important to me. It doesn't mean if I debate on this platform, I cannot go and meet Professor Victor. We share coffee or a drink. So it's very important.
Okay, I have a call on the line. You are watching Voices of Africa. Hello, sir.
Hello.
Yes, sir. Everybody on planet Earth is listening to you. If you want to disclose your name, that's fine. If not, that's too fine. You have a question?
Is it?
Right.
Yeah.
However, consider the fact that if Cameroon, if we decide today that French is no longer the official language, the capital of Cameroon moves from Yaoundé to Buea, the official language again is English, the legal system is common law and not the civil law. Will the other side of Cameroon actually accept that proposal? Because look at it that way. I think in every society, for everything to be very functional, the legal system has to be surmountable. But that's what's lacking in our society, and that's where the problem is. If we change that legal system in Cameroon, we change everything, then we are done with what's going on in Cameroon today. So if we switch the capital from Yaoundé to Buea, we switch the legal system from civil law to common law, will the other part of Cameroon accept it that way, Professor Ngo?
Professor Ngo, what's your response?
I think let me just give 2 quick answers. The first one that talked of the 1972 referendum. I would like to point out that the votes were counted separately. So the yes vote in West Cameroon was 99.something%. The yes vote in East Cameroon was 90-something. So the votes were counted separately. And we should bear in mind that we are talking of 1972. The percentage of francophones in West Cameroon in 1972 was very, very negligible. So we should not put it as if we are talking of a 2022. The votes were counted separately. So it is not that the East Cameroon vote tilted the yes vote. Then now to the second question, using the common law system and the English language, will the other party accept? I'm not here to speak on behalf of the other party.
All right, I have a call on the line. Hello? Hello?
Hello?
Yes, please. What's your question? We'll take 3 more calls and then close the program. Please keep it short. Hello, sir.
Yes. Do you receive second-time callers?
That's fine. You're on the line. I'll take you. No problem.
Yes. People should not feel offended when I don't think that saying that Paul Biya is the paymaster of the prof is insulting. So if it is insulting, hello?
Yes, I'm listening to you.
Yeah, if it's insulting, then I didn't mean that.
Okay, sir. I appreciate.
Anyway, yeah.
I appreciate your civility. Yeah, I appreciate that.
Yeah. So Prof talks about 1972. How Ambazonians, as we now prefer to call ourselves, voted. It was all fraud. When you bring in yes and we ballot paper, and everybody votes yes and we, why would the result not come out 99 points?
Okay.
So, Prof, 1972.
No, Prof, you're going to respond. Prof, you're going to respond. Yes. Hold on, Prof.
Yeah, was a complete fraud.
Okay.
And then somebody talked about moving the capital from Yaoundé to Buea. Oh my God. There is nothing like movement of capital. Cameroon is currently breaching international law. They have colonized Amazonia. It is the same thing like as Russia today. Russia is invading another independent country. In 1961, Cameroon trespassed international borders, moved its colonial administrators. Can people get me?
Yes, we're hearing you.
Oh, yeah. So they moved, they marched the army of occupation across international borders and have been in colonial occupation of Amazonia to this day as we speak. So no, even if they have to move capital cities, change, legal systems, it's not going to solve the problem.
Okay.
The problem is a problem of occupation.
I got it.
The solution is that Cameroon should withdraw its colonial forces from Amazonia and colonial administrators. That is what is going to solve the problem.
Okay. Thank you, sir, for your prescription. Dr. Ngo, you can imagine missiles coming at you. Now, were they because I've heard this argument recurrently, were there any international boundaries in 1961?
Let me first of all address the issue of the ballot we and yes. Honestly, okay. This is one of the false.
You seem to be freezing there. I hope.
Which is going out. There were 2 ballot papers. 2. The other was brown, and the white paper had we and yes. The question was in French, and it had we and yes, French and English. The brown ballot paper had no and none. The question was in French and English, no and none. And for people to say it was yes and we, it's just been dishonest. And I will refer them, for instance, to what Augustin Gomdra did or said in Cambe when he was campaigning. He took the 2 ballot papers and said white is daylight, brown is darkness. Nobody likes darkness, so please vote for white. So we should remember that clear. There were 2 ballot papers.
Okay, it's just a question. Thank you, sir. Now, let me just make sure I get you, sir, Professor. I want to trust that you are not giving your opinion. Is it an opinion or these things can be verified? Key question.
for instance, the campaign speeches of the northern team, and as well as the campaign speeches of the southern team, are available in the archives. They are there.
Okay.
And photographs are there.
Okay. All right. Again, we just want to set the facts straight. This program isn't here to endorse one way or the other. It's to set the facts straight, because in a war situation, the landscape is so convoluted. This person is saying this is lying, this person is true, this one is lying. So that's why I organized this program and brought all the panelists you see. At some point, we're going to have to go. I'm going to ask you, each of you, to make your closing remarks. First of all, you, Mr. Christopher Achombang, your closing remarks. And please keep it, make it brief.
We are praying that wisdom returns to the peoples of the Cameroons, and that the Cameroon Republic, people from Cameroon Republic, should realize the right of the people of Ambazonia to self-determination. It is not because Gabon used to be part of German Cameroon that Gabon should not be independent, or it's not because we have the Fangbulu in Gabon that the Gabonese should not be independent. The people of Ambazonia have to be separate from the people of French Cameroon for peace to prevail in this part of Guinea. And that is why the Under-Secretary of State for UN presented 2 maps to Paul Biya in 2010, reminding him of the separateness of Southern Cameroons from Cameroon Republic. So for peace to be, there should be separation.
Thank you, sir. That's Mr. Christopher Achombang. Ladies and gentlemen, at this point, I'm going to bring on, and he's right on the platform now, Professor Victor Ngo. What are your closing remarks? Please keep your remarks brief.
My closing remark is that we should understand that this is a senseless war, which would take Cameroonians and take Anglophones nowhere. The Anglophones are the greatest losers, and all what we should do, we should do everything to let peace reign, because at the end of the day, what I think we need in Cameroon is a good governance. Thank you.
I know that I said the last, why should people who feel marginalized and they feel that they're talking to a tone-deaf Yaoundé, why shouldn't they rise up and fight?
Yeah, the unfortunate thing is that even the Ambazonians, especially those in the US, the various groups, they do not agree among themselves. So you don't even know who at the end of the day is actually calling the shots.
You are watching Voices of Africa. At this point, we are going to invite our lawyer on the panel. First of all, we thank you, Professor Victor Ngo. We'll find time again to bring you on and the other speakers. Ladies and gentlemen, that has been Professor Julius Victor Ngo, connecting live from Buea, Cameroon.
Thank you very much, and wish everybody the best. And we should pray that this senseless conflict, senseless war comes to an end.
Thank you, Professor Julius Victor Ngo. At this point, time we bring our lawyer live from the Kingdom of Great Britain.
Yes, thank you. Brief before I conclude. I want to say this to Professor Victor Ngo. Everybody, we don't need to agree on everything. When South Africa, they were fighting against the apartheid regime, ANC was there, Communist Party was there, Pan-Africa, Buthelezi, all of them, it is normal to have differences. Okay, for me to conclude, what I want to say is very important. There is a commentator or somebody who calls it, what if Buea should be transferred, or Commonwealth to transfer to Buea? I know what he meant. The point,
that's a lawyer. That's a colleague of a fellow lawyer, and then about Kufuor. Yes, go ahead.
the point what that guy was saying, listen, ENAM is something from France. It's French institution. They translated into NASLA to Anglophones. École Normale Supérieure, something from France. They are forcing Anglophones on it. Military Tribunal, they got it from France in 1794. They are forcing it on Anglophones. SDO, governor unelected, they are forcing it on Anglophone. Gendarmerie, 1794, forcing it. Imagine us, Anglophone, taking our own institution, forcing it on the French part of it. So my point is, let the French institution remain in French area and let the English institution remain in English area. That's my point. That is the solution. We cannot live in a country where the money we are using, there's no English on it. I don't want to be a second-class citizen. It's not about Francophone, Anglophone. I don't want to be a second-class citizen in my country.
Thank you, sir. Ladies and gentlemen, I know we could be here for another 3 hours, and we wouldn't be able to exhaust the topic. I want to thank all of you. This show is on our website. It's also on that's www.chatnetafrica.net. Wonderful website. I want to thank the producer in Yaoundé. I want to thank my producer in Lagos, thousands of miles away, Mr. Roger Full. I want to thank all the people who have been contributing for this platform to look this dazzling. You can also watch this show on YouTube. You are free to go ahead and share as you want. This Sunday, something powerful is coming up. If you haven't heard of Professor Nche Abegli Zama, you should not miss watching what content he has for you. Why do people just go to sleep and die? I mean, why do people die in their sleep? Why do you see able-bodied people, muscular athletes, dropping off their feet and dying? What is CPR? Why are African schools not teaching CPR? Oh my God. The show this Sunday, 9 o'clock Washington, D.C. time, which will be 3 a.m., unfortunately, in West Africa. But if you want it, you will watch it. But if you just cannot be up at that time, you can still follow that show on YouTube and on our website. That's Professor Nche Abegli Zama. Final note. Somebody asked me how we come about choosing the topics, picking the topics. We have you in mind. We talk about bread and butter issues, kitchen table issues, pocketbook issues, the things that concern you, the things you care about. If you care about these things or any subject, we care about those subjects as well. And if you know, finally, if you know anybody in any part of the world who is doing things selflessly to change lives, anybody who is transforming challenges into opportunities, these are the people we want on this platform. I want to thank Professor Julius Ngo for coming. I want to thank my good friend, Mr. Achoban Christopher. I want to thank our lawyer, Alex Ndive Lisinge, for coming. I think we tried to answer the questions, at least present all the varying points of view. My name is Divine Chamokong. Ladies and gentlemen, that's how we wrap up this edition of Voices of Africa. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you Sunday. Bye for now.
I'm coming back. I'm coming back. I'm coming to get down. I'm coming to dance, We're gonna dance, we're gonna get down, we're gonna party hard, we're gonna boogie woogie, and when we jam, it's out of sight. This song right here, it's dynamite. I'm ready.